Hey guys, how are we going? It is Jayden here, all on his own this week. Nick is not here, he is on a business trip, so it'll just be me. I will be doing both power rankings, so it'll be both mine and Nick's. He's included, he just won't have his opinions on them. So, yeah, I guess you can leave a comment if you, what you think of Nick's power rankings and if they're good or not. I might smack talk them a bit because there's no counter argument. But without further ado, I guess I'll just go off my list and then we'll see where Nick's are sitting. At 32, both are the same. We both have Vancouver. And what do you say when you trade away your best defenseman your organization has ever had? Um, yeah, it's just a train wreck over there. It's a big trade. Still playing pretty horribly as well. We'll have to see if moving Hughes will fix anything. Because maybe he was a little bit too sour in the locker room. But in regards to their week, 2 games, 2 losses, 4-0 loss against Detroit, 3-2 loss against Buffalo, even though they doubled their shots, and he basically doubled Detroit shots as well. You just got to put it in the net and keep it out of yours. It's pretty much as simple as that. On to 31 for me is St. Louis Blues, and Nick has them at 28. Um, where are we? St. Louis Blues there. So moving up 2 positions. I still don't think they're playing well. 4-3 win against Montreal. Only had the 18 shots. 5-2 loss against Boston. 7-2 loss against Nashville, and then on the back-to-back, beating Chicago 3-2. So all in all, going 500, 2 semi-big losses, especially the 7-2 one, a 5-2 one in there as well. Just conceding too many goals. It's there's obviously no shutouts in there. I think the lowest they've kept their opponent was two goals in the Chicago game. Every other game was 3 or more. So it's looking better. I just moved down on them because I haven't liked them for a while, and another team just moved on up. But moving on to 30 for me, I have the Chicago Blackhawks, and Nick has them at 29. And yeah, just been going back to the form that we were expecting at the start of the season, I guess. It's kind of the Chicago we were expecting for the season. 1-3 for the week, so they play 4 games. Started off with 7-1 thrashing by Anaheim. Conceded 53 shots in that game, and then they go and then beat the Rangers 3-0. So the complete opposite of what they just did. And then they lose 3-2 to St. Louis on the back-to-back 4-0 loss against Detroit. Not enough goals for the week, getting outshot by 24 shots, -8 goal differential. They've just been sliding and sliding and sliding for the past month, and yeah, it's reflected in the power rankings there. All right, on to 29 for me. I have Utah. Just double checking to make sure that was correct, and Nick has them at 25. Boom, there we go. So he moves up 3. I move down 2. I think they're not playing too bad. I just think that a couple of other teams at the bottom have just been playing a little bit better. And yeah, it's kind of like the Chicago in a sense, just slowly being on a slide. Not the team I was expecting this season. I was expecting a better team. But 4-2 loss against LA, 3-4 loss against Florida, 5-3 win against Kraken. I would expect this team just to be a little bit more competitive. They were still in those games, but competitive in the regards to results wise. And I think Nick moves on them just because other teams above have been playing poorly, and not really warranted on Utah playing greatly. In regards to 28 for me, Nashville Predators. Been playing pretty solid for the last couple of weeks. Nick has them at 26. And we'll just fill that in there. And yeah, like I said, there's playing more solid as it's been going. And look for their week, obviously taking Colorado the shootout. They get the extra point in the shootout, but they took Colorado to shootout. Um, 7-2 thrashing of St. Louis. They destroy them, and then they go and versus Colorado again. 4-2 game, outshot by 12 shots, but they were in the game, and I think that's a credit to how they've been playing as of recently. They are, I think, it was like 6-4. Yeah, in the last 10, it's just been steadily being good for the last couple of weeks or so. That's why they move up. 5 for Nick, 3 for me. All right. Moving on to 27, Buffalo. And Nick also has them at 27. And yeah, this team just keeps ticking along. Slowly getting results. Seems to be a hard team to verse. 4-7 loss against Calgary. On the back-to-back, they go against Edmonton and win that in OT 4-3. And then they go versus Vancouver, get the win. Only had the 15 shots, conceding 32. But it just seems to be a gripe with Vancouver that doesn't matter how many shots you get, they're going to concede goals, and they're not really going to put up any. So they're kind of lucky to get a win there, but they're still playing better, I think, especially since the last couple of weeks has been an improvement, and the last 10 shows that reflects that they're still 5-5, which is 500, so not too bad there. On to 26 for me. I have Columbus. And we can see there's a hole, there's 2 holes down here, and one of those is 30 Columbus. And this team has been on a slide, hence Nick's big -8, my -5. I still think they're playing competitively, just did not get any results. Did not get any results. 4 games, 4 losses. First Washington, 2-0 loss, one of them empty net. They were in it the whole game, 39, 38 shots. It was really close. Same with Carolina, 2 really hard opponents in the Metro. 4-1 loss, I believe 2 empty net goals in that one, so they were in it the whole way. Come against Ottawa, I think there was 2 empty nets in that one, maybe only 1 in that one, but they were pretty much in it the whole way. And then the Vegas game, 3-2 loss, in it the whole way, just couldn't get it over the line in regulation. And yes, kind of the thing, they're playing well, just not getting results. And that's kind of how power rankings can go sometimes. You can play well, but sometimes you just got to put points on the board. And they did not. And being a season of OT shootout points, that could be the difference maker. And not getting any of those, that's a big concern. All right, on to 25. For me, I have Seattle. Yeah, Seattle. And this is Nick's other big move, down to 31, -6 for him, down in 31. It's it's pretty much warranted. Just like the Columbus, just not getting results. I do think they are playing somewhat alright. As of this week, the last few weeks they have not been. And so when you don't get all the results, it kind of just follows that trend. 1-2 for the week. Started with a 4-1 loss against Minnesota, OT win against LA, and then a 5-3 loss against Utah. Yeah, like they were competitive in all the games. Even the Wild game, there were like 2 empty nets, I'm pretty sure. And same with the Utah game, I believe it was 2 empty nets. Trying to go off memory, but it's just you got to get results, and they have not been for quite a while. 3-6-1 in the last 10, -17 goal differential. It's one of the lowest, if not the lowest, goal scoring team in the league at 73 goals for the year, and just double confirming it is the lowest in the league. And yeah, they just need something to spice up the goal scoring, because I don't think there's too much more to fix. Like I think they're doing alright. It's just you need to put goals in, pucking back in the net. It's a simple game. All right, on to 24. Calgary Flames for me, and 23 for Nick. And team just been, honestly, probably the last month, just been pretty solid consistently. Still points percentage wise, 30th in the league. Just highlighting how bad the start of the season was for them. But 6-3-1 in the last 10. They've been doing well. Still -13 goal differential, but for the week, if I just get them here, it wasn't too bad. It was a 7-4 win against Buffalo, a 3-4 loss in regulation against Detroit, though they outshot them, and then OT against LA, basically doubling the shots and getting the extra point in OT against a division rival. And yeah, just been constantly being about like 6-4, 6-3 for probably the last month or so, playing solid, playing better. It's just really just a horrible start to the season that's really ruined their season. But maybe if they stay consistent from this point onwards with this, they actually might make the playoffs if they're consistent. On to 23. I have the Winnipeg Jets, and Nick has them at 24. And this is another team that was on a slide, a better week, not a better week, but playing better, just not getting the results. 3-4 loss against Dallas, almost doubled their shots though. Boston, 6-3 loss. I believe there's an empty net or two in there. And then Washington, a 5-1 win, a good win against Washington. Like I said, playing better, just, not always getting the results. Still 3-6-1 in the last 10, but they are a 0 in regards to plus minus and goal differential, which is different, you can say, to probably the next 12 teams where there's only one in the green and the rest are red. So it's good in that department. What's hurt them this season in regards to point standings is they just do not go to OT shootout and get those extra points. That's pretty much what's hampering them this season. They're the team that's gone to OT shootout the least in the league with three showings, and I think the average is about 8 this season. So, yeah, that is what hampered them in regards to point standing wise on the ladder. On to Toronto at 22. And that is also Nick's 22. +1 for me, -3 for Nick. It's just kind of where they just fell into, just like the little hole there. That's why they go up and down for in respectiveness. It's they looked good last week or so, and then they just look bad. There's no heart in this team. It's kind of my concern. It's why I almost wanted to have them lower, but it's kind of just where they fell. Obviously, starting strong, 2-0 win against Tampa. They were playing really strong, playing well defensively, getting those counter attacks going. 2-0 win there. OT loss against the Sharks, 3-2. Shouldn't be losing that. And then the 6-3 loss against Edmonton today was where I almost wanted to drop them down to 30 or something, just because there's no heart in that team. Like they played well for relatively 2 periods, and then were not competitive at all in the last period. Besides probably 3-4 players on ice, the rest just looked like they quit. And it's crazy that you can get paid 13 mil, 11 mil, millions of dollars, and you can just quit your job like that in a sense and still get paid. We do that, we get fired. But yeah, so it was a very poor performance. They lack heart. It comes from leadership. Even the coach said it today. It starts with the leadership team to stir that around, and I don't know how it's going to happen. They don't listen to the coach anymore by the looks of it with Berube. So things have to change for Toronto. Moving on, 21 for both of us, Ottawa Senators. Another Canadian team. -4, -6. And yeah, just been steadily last 2-3 weeks, just poor performances, poor results. And what I noticed this week, look, 4-3 loss against the Devils, all 3 goals, power play goals. Columbus 6-3 win, and then going on to Minnesota Wild losing 3-2 in regulation. Both goals, power play goals. You take those power players and they're getting shut out, so they need to improve their 5-on-5 scoring anyway. And they're 3-7 in the last 10. It's just been a slow decline for Ottawa. But yeah, I couldn't have Toronto above them just because lack of heart. At least Ottawa plays with heart, just not getting the results. On to 20. San Jose Sharks for me. And Nick has them at 19, so pretty much the same spot. And just really good performance this week. 3-1 in regards to wins losses. 4 games for the week. Started off beating Carolina 4-1. 1-4 loss against Philly, who is always hard to play. 3-2 overtime win against Toronto, and good comeback. And then Pittsburgh 6-5 win in OT. Good comeback. I think, was it 4 unanswered or 5 unanswered? Yeah, 4 unanswered, then the OT goal, I believe. So yeah, just really good comebacks. Opposite to Toronto, playing with heart. Even when you're down 4, they're playing with heart. So, and they're getting points, getting results, and that's reflected in the power rankings. 5-5 in the last 10. Goal differential -14. You kind of expect that with the Sharks, though. It's like we'll try and put 6 on you, but you'll put 5 on us. But if you manage to figure out defensively, then and shut us down offensively, then you're gonna have a bad goal differential. But yeah, been on the up, fun team to watch, a lot of goals scored. Alrighty, moving on to 19. We're almost there into the top 16. 19, Detroit Red Wings for me, and Nick has them at 12. Wow, I was like, I can't see them. And it's because they are so high. So I move up 1, he moves up 4. We'll have a look at how their week went if I just get it here. Sorry, I'm going through so many tabs. But 3-1 for the week. 4-0 win against Vancouver. Basically, only 21 shots to 39. Like I said, Vancouver, no matter how many shots they have, they can't score. We beat Calgary 4-3 on the back-to-back. 4-1 loss against Edmonton, and then a 4-0 win against Chicago. The reason I didn't move on them as high, one, double shots in, what was it, the Vancouver game. Pretty much outshot in every game. -29 shot differential for the week. And the opponents were not that great. Chicago, Vancouver, Calgary, all teams below them at the moment, and then Edmonton being the one in the power rankings that I have above them at the moment. So I didn't really rate too highly the wins and losses, and I don't feel played how they should play in those games. 5-3-2 in the last 10, still playing decent. 19-20 up, could easily be in the top 16. It's that close of a season, so I understand Nick's call in the at 12 position there. It makes sense because it is just that close. So I'm not gonna on him too hard there because it makes sense. On to 18 for me. Team they just lost to, not because that's why I put them above them, but Edmonton Oilers at 18. Nick has them at 17. There we go. And Edmonton Oilers, I think, have been playing relatively strong last, I wouldn't say month, but probably 2 weeks. OT loss against Buffalo, just don't get an extra point. 4-1 win against Red Wings, and then 6-3 win against Toronto. I like it. McDavid doing McDavid things, but I don't know how much I rate it. And it just Toronto being imploding, to Edmonton just being better. But now McDavid's been doing McDavid things. It looks like that may be what destroyed Toronto. I don't know, but he's been doing it relatively frequently the last 2-3 weeks as well. So it's starting to look good. It's starting to click. Still concerns with how that D looks and everything, but Nurse looked alright. Bouchard still, but yeah, not too bad. Getting stronger. That's why they move up +4 and +3 for each of us respectively. All right, moving on to 17 for me, Florida Panthers, and that is Nick's 20. And like I said, this 20 and up, extremely close. You could almost have them in any order, realistically. So a really strong week for them, 3-1. So in regards to results, beat the Islanders 4-1, 4-3 win against Utah, back-to-back lose 6-2 against Colorado, and then a 4-0 win against Dallas, only keeping them to 15 shots. So extremely good results, especially considering the opponents in Colorado, Dallas. Islanders. So I was pretty impressed in that department. Still only 5-4-1 in the last 10. Um, yeah, I think they're starting to click, getting better, especially compared to the start of the season. Obviously, Nick has just been a little bit lower on him. He had a bigger move, +4. I had a smaller move, +2. It's just where we were thinking of him last week. But I think just slightly outside the top 16 is correct position for them at the moment. But it's looking like they could be in that top 16 quite easily, given their current form. All right, moving on to number 16. Let's see. We both have the Montreal Canadiens. Just feel those ones out there. And yeah, it's hard to know what to expect from this team week from week. They just came to roller coastering. 3-4 loss against St. Louis, even though St. Louis only had 18 shots. 6-1 loss against Tampa. 4-2 win against Pittsburgh, and then go to OT and lose it in OT against New York Rangers. Only had the 17 shots, but scored 4 goals. Sometimes it's just like that. And yeah, well, I don't really feel comfortable even having them in the top 16. I think that they're really, really bordering it. It's just the other teams have to prove themselves probably just another more week. 5-4-1, last 10, -11 goal differential. It's yeah, like they're just relying so much on OT performances as well. They've had 7 showings in not 11 showings in OT shootout. 4 losses, 7 wins, but yeah, I just don't know what to expect from them. I don't want them in my top 16 for how they've been performing, but just Florida Oilers for me, even Detroit, just haven't been performing to the point where I feel like I could throw them in there. All right, on to 15. We have the New Jersey Devils for me, and 14 for Nick. And I just think it's hard to move on this team. They had a good week in regards to results, but they're still not playing the best. Still finding ways to make games hard or lose. They're kind of, it's like the Toronto Oilers situation I mentioned. That game where it's kind of New Jersey defeat themselves and don't get defeated by their opponent. They're their own worst enemy. Moving on, they beat Ottawa 4-3. Ottawa had 3 power play goals, so really it was kind of like a 4-0 shutout. If you didn't, concede in the power play. Got thrashed 8-4 against Tampa, and then they win against Anaheim. I didn't really move on them. I just moved one up just because I just don't think Montreal's playing as consistently as New Jersey. Even though New Jersey isn't playing to their best that we, were seeing at the start of the season or start of last year as well. So maybe, hopefully, that is not a trend for them in that regard. All right, moving on to 14 for me. I have the New York Rangers. I cannot find them for some reason. And Nick has them at 18. Yeah, this is a team we've just been slightly differential on. We both don't move on them. There's not much of a week in that regards. Like OT loss against Vegas, they just don't get the extra point. Get shut out by Chicago is why I couldn't move on them, and then they get an OT win against Montreal. I don't know how to value that week because 2 of those teams, Vegas, Montreal, are just OT merchants and always go to OT no matter what. And they just didn't get the extra points in the Vegas game. And I was a little bit lower on them in regards to the Chicago game being shut out, but I don't think they've been playing poorly. They haven't been playing great, and that's what I mean. Like the bottom of this top 16 and outside of it's just a little bit weaker, and it's easy for one of these teams to have a good week and then move on up. All right, moving on to number 13. We have the Vegas Golden Knights for me. I am, like I said, just OT merchants. Plus, well, not +9, but position 9 for Nick. And +2 each. Look, they're getting results. It's just they go to OT way too much. And I don't think it's going to get them to playoffs. And I think they'll do well in the playoffs. But you can't win like that in the playoffs. And that's my only concern for this team. So yeah, they've gone 13 times to OT shootout, as I mentioned. And look, OT win against Rangers, shootout loss against the Islanders, OT win against Philly, and then a regulation win by 1 goal against Columbus, just because Columbus couldn't get an empty, pull the goalie and score one. Um, and yeah, it's hard to value like these wins and points and losses. They're always in it. That's why they're a top 16 team. They're always in it. They are strong. You just they're allergic to regulation. um, so yes, why I'm not as high on them. Nick has them in the top 10. It is warranted in a sense. Like they are fourth in points percentage in the league. 6-2-2 in their last 10. My issue is they have 9 OT shootout points. Where you take those away, you're down where Columbus, Chicago are at 32. So if it's a hard thing to take OT shootout points away because they are warranted, but at the same time, like, where's the regulation? It's what I mentioned earlier with Winnipeg. It's what's been hampering Winnipeg. They need more OT shootout wins, losses. But anyway, on to number 12, LA Kings for me. Number 13 for Nick. Boom. And yeah, just no movement this week on regards to LA. Just kind of like Vegas. OT merchants, OT shootout merchants, always going to OT shootout, but always consistently in the game. And that's why they're in the top 16. 4-2 win against Utah. OT loss against the Kraken. It's against the Kraken, but they went to OT. And then the OT loss against Calgary. So this is what I mean. They lose the games. They got outshot heavily against Calgary. But they get points, and it's good for the regular season. I think they'll do well in the playoffs. I expect good things. But yeah, it's just like Vegas. You got to get the regulation. You got to start dominating 6-1, 6-2. I want to, where you would expect to see a team in the top 10 where they can actually dominate 5-on-5 consistently for multiple weeks. Alrighty, on to 11. I have the Philadelphia Flyers, and Nick has them at 11 too. So we can see there's a hole at 15 for Nick. We'll have to see which team fills that one. Keep the suspense going. Just sliding out are almost the same thing as LA and Vegas in the sense that they're just always consistent, always in the game, no matter what. They will shut you down in the sense that you will play their style of game. So it's generally low shooting games. Starting off 3-2 loss against Colorado, once again in it. 4-1 win against San Jose, keeping them to 18 shots. Vegas game going to OT and losing. They had 19 shots, kept Vegas to 22. Once again, just like play our style. And then a 3-4 shootout loss against Carolina. 18. They had 18 shots. Carolina had 21. Great work to keep Carolina under 30 shots on goal. And like I said, they force teams to play their style, which is extremely strong. I just wanted to see more, I don't know, excitingness, like results as well. They only get the 1 win for the week, and yeah, I do think this is a really strong team. And to be able to keep, even Carolina, Vegas's and Colorado's to kind of play your style, and forcing them to do that is an extremely big feat. Not not really many teams, if any, are doing that this season. So really hats off to them. Really really sad to see them come out of the top 10 because of how they've been playing. But you sometimes just got to get the results. But they had a really hard week. That's why I only moved down 1 on them this week. But yeah, same position as Nick. Moving on to number 10 for me, filling in Nick's hole at 15. It's Pittsburgh Penguins. So I'm just a little bit higher on him. Higher on them. -1 for me, -3 for Nick, and just looking at their week, a shootout loss against Dallas. They go to shootout against Dallas. Shootout loss against Anaheim. They go to shootout against Anaheim. 4-2 loss against Montreal. I do think they were generally the better team. And then I don't know what you call it, a capitulation against San Jose, allowing a 4-goal comeback. I believe it was. They had 43 shots to their 32 and ended up losing in OT. So not only did you let the team come back, but then you did end up losing that extra point. Um, I didn't want to hamper on too much because I still, even though they did do that, they didn't actually get a win this week, but they were competitive in pretty much all the games. Get 3 points out of 8, even though you didn't win a game, and it's because they were going to OT shootout. That's what we keep mentioning with LA, Vegas. You do get credit for doing that, especially against teams like Dallas, Anaheim, um, and so on. But yeah, would have been higher in the top 10 or staying where they are at 9 for me last week, and we probably would have been around the 12 mark for Nick if they did not capitulate against San Jose. But all said and done, they did have that lead, and they do get the point from it. I'll just say, for their last 10 though, 4-2-4, a lot of OT shootout, and that is a concern for them. I do still think they are playing better than what some of their results have been providing. But moving on, but I understand Nick's position at 15. It makes sense. That's how close this season is. All right, on to 9 for me and 10 for Nick. Anaheim Ducks. And this team's slowly been on a slide. It's like just a gentle decline, just receding away. But started off really strong, 7-1 win, 53 shots on goal, keeping Chicago, to 20. Just absolute thrashing for the start of the week. Go to shootout against Pittsburgh, get the extra point, but then 5-2 loss against the Islanders, strong opponent, and then a 4-1 loss against New Jersey Devils. So facing 3 Metro teams, and we know the Metro has been pretty strong this year. I probably would have liked to see them win against the New Jersey Devils, just for how New Jersey have been imploding on themselves, and I don't think Anaheim pressured them enough to make them implode on themselves. And then, but they're like always in it, always competitive. Pretty much any team from 13 up is always in the game. So it's really like not a top 16, it's like a top 13 in some regards. But in regards to standings wise, they are, just falling off a little bit. They're 5-5 in the last 10, ninth in points overall. Probably, I think, 10th or something in points percentage. It's slowly on the decline, but still playing really well, still warranting a top 10 position, but they're teetering on falling out. And we know it's a close season, and it doesn't take really 1 or 2 bad weeks, and then you're out. You're out of the top 16. All right, moving on to position 8, ranking 8 for me, Minnesota Wild, and Nick has them at 5, and warranted in a sense that it's just a close top 10 in general, obviously besides a couple, but it is just a massive turnaround that this team's done. They are still 7-2-1 in their last 10, won their last 3, because that's right, they won all 3 this week, and they beat Kraken 4-1. The next team was Dallas 5-2, and then Ottawa 3-2. Guess what, everybody? They did them all in regulation because they're just a better team than the teams we talked about. That they just have to keep going to OT and shootout. So yeah, +3 for me. Just a little bit on the. Don't want to move too hard on him. Nick moved +4. Had him a little bit higher last week. As well as I had them slightly out of the top 10. In regards to 7-2-1 last 10, 5th in regards to points percentage and point standings. They are looking good. It's I can't believe they got Quinn Hughes. Add that to it. It's they could be a really dangerous team. They may have mortgaged the future after 2 years because Buium and what's the other ones? I'm sorry for getting them off the top of my head. Don't look too bad. Obviously, Buim or Zeev Buim looks really good. But Quinn Hughes, you're going to shore that up. They've kind of followed the model of the two teams that they have to compete against, and Avs and Dallas, and that's get a top 5 defender. And Avs had Makar, Dallas have Heiskanen. They follow that model, and they went and got Quinn. So insane being the central. It's going to be interesting to see how it works out. But they look like they're set up for good things. You know, end of season and come playoffs. Because I can't see them not missing playoffs now. But on to 7, Boston Bruins, and that is 8 for Nick. This team, I think, is just going under the radar for everyone. They're just ticking along. They've played less games in a sense than I was 32 now, but there was like some less games than other teams, so the points wise wasn't as high. The other thing that people want, I think, are low on them is because OT shootout merchants, they don't have an OT shootout point this season. They've gone there 6 times. They've gotten their 6 extra points. So if they were going them for more frequently in their losses and getting those extra points, they would be much higher in point standings. 7-3 in their last 10, won their last 4 because that's right. They won only the 2 games they played this week. Only 2 games. St. Louis 5-2 and Winnipeg 6-3. Putting up good amount of goals, keeping 2.5 goals against average. It's great. That they just look solid every game. And like I said, I think they're going under the radar purely because they're not getting those extra points in shootout and OT, and they get it done in regulation generally. And even if they go to OT shootout, they get it done. So yeah, really strong team. Slightly going under the radar, I think. On to number 6, New York Islanders. And Nick has them at 7. Yeah, -1. I flipped and flopped between 6 and 5 for this team because, but I do think the team that went 5 just playing slightly better. Despite results or anything like that, just more consistent. Florida 4-1 loss, shootout win against Vegas. They go to Anaheim and win that 5-2, and then shootout win against Tampa, only having 17 shots to 34. So, Tampa doubled their shots. 3-1 for the week, -32 in shot differential, and that's where I've kind of lost a little bit of faith in them because they've slowly, I feel like, slid away. Though they get in the points because of the OT shootout, because this is another one of those merchant teams. But and they do beat Tampa in shootouts, even though they had 17. They're still really strong. I think Schaefer's got like 9 goals this season. Like he's got more than a player like Jesper Bratt, and he's a defenseman. It's kind of funny to say. Even though I think Nemitz has 7, which is more than Bratt, but it's it's a crazy thing what Schaefer's done, and it's kind of like the Quinn Hughes trade for Wild. It's really like if you get a Makar, Quinn Hughes, a Schaefer, that generational defenseman, it seems to really change a team for the better. And so they're doing really good, really strong team. Like I said, I flipped between 5 and 6. I just decided to move because I do think my number 5, even though they beat this team, Tampa Bay Lightning. And I'll just have to check where Nick has them. He has them at 6. I just think Tampa's just been slightly more stronger in 5-on-5. Just overall for the, maybe not the last 2 weeks, but maybe like a week and a half. It's just more consistently showing up. Obviously, 0-2 loss against Toronto. Close game. They did way too many turnovers, and Toronto were playing pretty strong in that game. On a back-to-back, 6-1 win against Montreal, destroy New Jersey Devils 8-4, and then go to shootout and obviously, as I mentioned, lose against the New York Islanders. So really hard opponents for the week, and they get results. It's and when they don't, they go to OT shootout. But I just think they're playing very consistent, playing really strong. They're definitely a top 10 team, which is crazy to say because how good they've been for the last, I don't know, what, 7 years, whatever it is now. And yeah, just very, very, very consistent. And even though they didn't get all the results this week, that's why I moved them above Islanders, even though they got more of the results, as I just think they're playing a little bit better, a little bit more consistently. Though it's a hairline. Alrighty, moving on to number 4, Carolina Hurricanes for both of us. No movement there, and yeah. Speaking of consistent, this team's just ticking along at this point, just consistently going through the motions, where they're at. And look, 4-1 loss against San Jose, 4-1 win against Columbus, shootout win against Washington, and then go to Flyers, shootout win against the Flyers. Consistently putting up high amounts of shots, even though Flyers did make them play their game. Plus 31 in shot differential because that's what Flyers do. Carolina do, sorry. I don't know why I said Flyers. And yeah, it's just really strong team. There's a little flaws here and there, but nothing too great. That's why they're not number 1, obviously. But yeah, I couldn't move them up for this week. Obviously, couldn't move them down. So like same with Nick. It's just a same old, same old. 6-4 in their last 10, won their last 3. Pretty solid. So moving on to number 3, I have the Washington Capitals. And Nick's done the same. Same as the last one, really. There's not much to say in that regards, but beat Columbus 2-0. Shootout loss against Carolina. And then where it went a little bit frail was the 5-1 loss against Winnipeg. But I haven't moved on them just for the fact I still think they're playing extremely strong. A really hard opponent, even against the hard teams. They were going to OT shootout against it. It's their last 10. Just trying to find them here. 7-1-2 in their last 10, plus 23 shot goal differential. So they're second in the league, behind Colorado in regards to goal differential. Their 5-on-5 has been great. They're scoring a lot of goals. It looks really good. It looks really good for Washington. Chikrin, great find, playing great. He looks fantastic. Thompson's been solid. It just seems to be going really, really well for the Washington Capitals. But on to number 2, no movement again. Dallas Stars for both. So no movement in our top 4 this week. And yeah, it's pretty much hard to do so when they're all playing pretty consistently. Shootout win for against Pittsburgh for Dallas. Then 4-3 win against Winnipeg. They only had 19 shots. 5-2 loss against the Wild. Wild are just playing really, really strong. Only 18 shots in that game. And then 4-0 loss against Florida. Only had the 15 shots. And that's where it almost fell apart for me for Dallas and moving them down, 1, 2 or so many positions. It's just the amount of shots they had this week was very, very poor. Negative 42 in shot differential, which was the worst for the week. Granted, they play four games, so if you have a poor week, it gets exacerbated more compared to teams that only play 2. But yeah, what was that? 1, 2, 3, 3 games under 20 shots on goal, and the Pittsburgh game they had 23. So just need to have more offense, but they play so well defensively. They have a good system that they play offensively in your zone. They seem to be able to do well breaking teams down the way they cycle the puck. So yeah, still a very strong team. I couldn't move from them. Third in the league in shot goal differential. Sorry. So yeah, just really strong. But another week like that, and they're definitely out of the number 2 position. Number 1, no surprise, Colorado Avalanche. And what do you say? 7-1-2 in the last 10, plus 54 goal differential at this point. Only the 2 regulation losses, 21 regulation wins, 21 out of 23. So they're not going to OT shootout and siphoning it from there. They're 0-4 in shootout. And just in regards to their week, 3-2 win against the Flyers, shootout loss against Nashville, and then because they don't win shootouts. Florida 6-2 win, and then Nashville again 4-2 win because they really hard week because I think Nashville's been playing better, so I actually rate that as a pretty hard week. They're getting the results as always. I don't know what to say. I think the only concern for this team is now that Wild's got Quinn, they've got a bigger threat in their own division, let alone conference. And yeah, it's going to be hard to see. Most likely, Avs, Dallas, or Wild move move out in the first round because of how the playoff standings, well, what do you call it, bracket works. So it's been an interesting week. A little bit of movement, not too great. The season's starting to settle, even though the season's really close. There's some OT shootout merchants. There's some teams that need to do it more often, like the Jets. And yeah, so only 5 teams for me staying in their positions. I think 7 for Nick. So yeah, not too bad. Yeah, let us know what you think of our power rankings. Once again, it was only me this week. Nick will be here hopefully next week to do his thoughts. And let us know what you think of mine and his. Leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe. But until next time, guys, we'll catch you later.